Assalamu alaikum. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Supply and Demand here on Channel 2 of the Saudi Arabian television. This is your host, Ahmad Al-Tahini. And tonight we're going to address a very important topic, and that is investment opportunities in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. And what are we to do in order to attract investors from all around the world? What do we have to offer? The procedures of investment and the environment, are they conducive enough for investors to come and put their money and invest here in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia? We'll be also looking at the impact of the recent reforms introduced by the custodian of the two holy mosques, the huge projects, the huge economic cities that have been inaugurated, and the assessment of the environment, of the investment environment, what obstacles that we need to overcome. We'll be talking to engineer Usama Kurdi, a member of the Shura Council, and Dr. AbdelAziz AlUwaisheg, who is from the GCC Council, the Economic Integration Department. And with us from Dhahran, an Australian gentleman, Mr. Frank Edward from the city of Perth, who is attending the forum and attending a very important meeting for partnerships. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for being with us. And from Dammam, yes, I hope that we can start talking about the first important part, which is the impact of the recent economic reforms on the investment environment and the volume of investment expected.
Well, no doubt that the economic reform that took place in Saudi Arabia over the past for about 10 years had, and I think will have, measurable impact on the level of investment in Saudi Arabia. Let's look at the reform and where it happened, because then we can evaluate the impact on the economy and on investment. In my opinion, there were three axes through which this reform took place. The first axis was when new laws were introduced and existing laws updated and reviewed. Along this axis, we've seen a new investment law being issued. We have seen a new tax law has been issued, and a new companies law is in the process of being issued. A long list of laws that were issued basically to make it possible and easier and simpler and more profitable for businesses to invest in Saudi Arabia and to do business in Saudi Arabia. The second axis was when we went through and started new organizations to support and assist the business community, the foreign and Saudi business communities, to come and establish business in Saudi Arabia. We have seen the Supreme Economic Council headed by the custodian of the two holy mosques, King Abdullah bin AbdelAziz. We have seen the reorganization of the gas and oil, the oil and mineral resources High Commission. We have seen the establishment of the Investment Authority. We have seen the establishment of the Tourism Authority. And so creation of these organizations certainly supported the activities of the private sector and was an important integral part of the economic reform. The third axis was the axis in which new areas of investment were created or opened up to the private sector. Tourism, as we all know, is a new area of investment in Saudi Arabia. Mineral resources are being developed in the country after many years of not receiving as much attention as it should have. And so this is a whole new area for investment in Saudi Arabia. Even higher education, private sector has been allowed to go into higher education, whether based on money making, on profit making or non-profit making concepts of running such educational institutions. And then new areas were opened for the private sector: water generation, water desalination, power generation, railroads, and of course the aviation industry. So all of these are areas that have been either opened up for the private sector and being privatized, or completely new areas that were opened. Many tools are being used to supplement the reform of the economy and the developments of the development of these new investment areas. When we introduced the privatization concept, we introduced the Saudization of the labor force concept, and a few other tools that are, and also the different funding mechanisms that have existed in the past, or new funding systems that have been created, or expansion of existing funding activities. All of this, of course, not only impacted the economic development in general, but in my opinion dramatically affected the investment environment and foreign investment level in Saudi Arabia.
Okay. Contributed to making it more attractive.
Absolutely.
And more conducive. Dr. AbdelAziz, would you like to add to what Engineer Usama has?
I think one of the most important institutions that Usama mentioned is the Saudi Arabian Investment Authority. And it's I think the fact that it was established was a recognition, a candid recognition, I think, by the government that there are obstacles that need to be overcome to encourage investors to come to Saudi Arabia. And I believe one of the best things that the organization has done so far is to pinpoint those obstacles. And I think they have a list of over 100 different obstacles.
106 to be exact.
Some small, some big, some and so I think you can measure then the performance of the organization in two ways. One, in how many of those 100 obstacles have been eliminated, and then how much have they been able to convince investors to come to Saudi Arabia. And I think they have done a good job on both counts, judging from the list of investors who have been licensed in Saudi Arabia. Obviously, licensing is one thing, but the actual investment is another thing. And I think perhaps SAGIA, or the Investment Authority, could help give us a better idea by publishing also the figures for actual investment that has resulted from the billions of dollars of projects that have been licensed. So I believe that in a nutshell, that the recognition that we need to work on our business climate to make it more attractive for investors is in itself is an important step. It's one thing to have great economic opportunities, but it's another to actually convince investors to come to Saudi Arabia, and that's judged by several factors. In addition to what they expect as their economic return is, they also look for skilled labor, they look for the availability of cheap capital, they look for the ease of bureaucratic and administrative licensing requirements, and all of that. And
these are very important aspects that we need to address later on. But let me ask a question, Mr. Edward. Can you tell us the purpose of your visit to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, and how do you see Saudi Arabia now as an investment opportunity for Australians, for example?
Thank you. The purpose of my visit to Saudi Arabia is as a member of the World Energy Cities Partnership. This is a collection of 13 cities from around the world who have energy as the key source of work. They are the places that are the centre of the energy production in their regions. And what these cities are trying to do is to find ways to ensure that the benefits that follow from this energy production results in investment in their communities. This can be in the area of service provision, the production of skilled workforces to be able to be employed in the energy sector. These people can then contribute back into their own economy. It provides a future for their children. It provides workers for the industry. And it also means that investment that supports the energy sector is encouraging local businesses. So some of the things you've been talking about very much match the purpose of this organisation.
Excellent. What can we do as Saudis, or what can the government do, what can SAGIA do to attract investors to come to Saudi Arabia?
I can only comment on the experience that I've learned by sharing views with these 13 cities. And I think knowledge about the opportunities that are available, selling the message that Saudi Arabia is open for business in terms of this investment, and explaining what those opportunities are. We try to facilitate trade missions that will allow our business people to have access to the major players in the energy sector in order to seek partnerships which will see benefit to both the investor and the communities from which they come from. And so I think there are great opportunities for the membership of the city of Dammam to assist in that.
Okay. I think let's assess the environment, the investment environment. How do you assess it, Engineer?
Well, that is quite a question. Of course, there is no absolute way of assessing an investor environment, but you assess it by measuring the level of increase in the volume of investment when a country receives, and then compare that increase by other countries. Unfortunately, I didn't bring with me the exact statistics as to the increased the volume of the increase in the volume of foreign investment into Saudi Arabia. But there has been, it might just help to say that there has been a remarkable increase in the number of projects and the volume of investments that have taken place in Saudi Arabia during 2005 over 2004 and 2004 over 2003. Many reasons stand behind this. We covered the most important one, which is economic reform. But the fact that Saudi Arabia became a member of the WTO, in my opinion, has dramatically impacted that. Not only did our membership in the WTO changed the outlook of foreign investors into Saudi Arabia, but also some of the reform that happened in Saudi Arabia, the economic reform that happened in Saudi Arabia, happens as a result of our negotiating process with the WTO. So that is an important thing we should not overlook. Now, as I said, the number of projects and the volume of investment has gone dramatically high. Some of the tools that we have created, the new tools, I talked earlier about some tools that I missed to mention, the 6 announced and plans economic industrial zones in Rabigh, north of Medina, in Jizan, Hail, in Medina, and other parts of Saudi Arabia will contribute, in my opinion, dramatically to the increase of investment. But let's stop a little bit here and say, why does Saudi Arabia need foreign investments? I mean, everybody knows that Saudi Arabia is flush with funds, and we don't really need the monetary portion of the foreign investments. But what is important is not to think of the money coming in, but also think of 3 things that come with that money. One is the business, the job opportunities that are created by such investments. The second is the technology and know-how that usually comes with these investments. And third is the opening of markets from where these investments have come from. And so, despite the fact that that the monetary portion of the investment is not important, there are other reasons why that investment is almost always welcome.
Can I interrupt you?
Sure, please.
In regards to the jobs that are being created, and this question is for all of you, gentlemen. Are our kids really ready? Are they well equipped to work in such a highly demanding economic projects?
Well, the quick answer is no. Right, not in the right numbers and not in the right skills. And I think I'll just go back to your question. What attracts, how does a foreign investor make his mind about investing in Saudi Arabia? There basically is no secret. There are basically 5 main pillars that he looks for. And he measures the Saudi environment against those 5 measures. And one of them is the infrastructure. And I think on some areas we have superb infrastructure. On the roads, for example, land roads, we have great infrastructure. But not so much on the trains, for example, and not so much on the airline traffic within Saudi Arabia and from Saudi Arabia to other countries. And then they look for skilled labor. And we have 2 sources. One is local, and as you probably know, our universities are not producing the right kind of graduates in the right numbers that are needed.
Why not?
Well, that's
that is a very important question.
But I think
King Saud University, King AbdelAziz University, I mean, I'm not being critical or I'm not being cynical, but really, why not benefit from how Australia did this, for example, or other countries? And just make sure that our universities cater for the needs of the market.
It'll be interesting to hear the Australian experience in that area.
Absolutely. Mr. Edward, would you like to share this with us? In regards to how Australia succeeded or tried to link the programs that are taught in the universities or colleges or technical colleges with the needs of the market.
Because it is exactly the issues that many of our cities around the world are facing. At a recent conference of major oil companies, they were asked what is the key issue for the future of the energy industry, and the general conclusion was the lack of people learning the skills, the highly technical ones, the advanced education that will equip them to go forward into the future. In my country, we are still trying to grow the universities and encourage the right sort of children to enter these highly technical industries. They're very demanding, they require a lot of work, and many of the younger people today choose what I would call the softer options. But we need to enter the schools, convince them early on so that they take the right subjects in their early education years so that they're equipped to go forward. And this is a comment that has been made by many of the cities in our partnership.
When you say we, do you mean the government or the private sector, or who should do this? I mean, there is a gap somewhere. I mean, people or youngsters or high school graduates, maybe they don't know what exactly are the areas needed in the market. Somebody is not doing the job they're required to do.
The partnership must include the government, it must include the industry, and it must include the community who want their people to be involved in this industry in the future.
Okay. Let me add something here, and the Australian experience might assist in this point. The issue of labor migration. I mean, we have a lot of sensitivities in Saudi Arabia, and I understand in Australia and other countries against labor migration. There is naturally tendency of people to be protective of their environment, of their job opportunities, but we must agree with the International Labour Organization that has established that labor migration has become a standard practice all over the world. It's very interesting, but when Saudi Arabia had 300,000 laborers from Thailand working in Saudi Arabia, Myanmar working in Thailand. So it is acceptable to have for labor to migrate from one country to another, complementing each other. Very often jobs that Saudis don't want to do in Saudi Arabia, they will probably do it in some other country. And so we have to accept that principle, and the fact that, and naturally I need to go back to our subject of investment development, investment promotion in Saudi Arabia, or investors in Saudi Arabia need to know that if they can find labor from the indigenous population, that they can hire them. But when they don't find, they should know that they're able to hire from abroad without any major impediments against bringing these laborers in. Dr. AbdelAziz slightly mentioned something about the impediments, the problems we're facing with promoting even more investments in Saudi Arabia. I have to say that I am aware of the fact that SAGIA, the Investment Authority, has been working very, very hard to try to eliminate those by creating some sort of a partnership with other government departments in charge of, the issue of visas. The issue of visitor visas to Saudi Arabia, in my opinion, is a major problem.
Absolutely.
Despite decisions made by the government at the high level, I have not seen the implementation actually take place at the lower executive levels of the government. There has been an improvement. I cannot deny that there has been a major improvement in the issue of visas, and I'm talking about not only, I'm sorry, I said visitors visa, but I also include visas for labor. I have seen improvement. I have seen slight changes in policies and procedures, but I would like to see more.
A lot more needs to be done, actually. I mean, if you go to Dubai, for example, you can get the visa in the airport and easily go into the country and visit and meet with business people, find the opportunities that are available to you. So a lot needs to be done in regards to easing the process or the procedures. Would you like to comment on that, Dr.?
Yes, I agree, and I think there's a lot that can be done. I wanted to go back to skilled labor. Why aren't our universities graduating the right kind of graduates? And I think,
sorry, I keep interrupting you guys.
No, it's okay.
But,
no, it's fine.
Feel free to go back to the points that you feel that you didn't really.
But that was your original question. And I think, and up until now, or at least until recently, I think our universities lacked the fund, but more importantly, lacked the vision. And so they were oriented towards filling their seats as shall we say, cheaply as possible. And which means that they really were motivated by two things: a demographic pressure to enroll in the state universities, in the government universities, given a limited amount of funds that are available to them. Now we don't have that restriction or that constraint of the finances. I think but changing the orientation takes time, and I believe that the Ministry of Higher Education now is engaging in drawing a vision for the next 25 years to exactly address that. It takes time, but I think for the past 20 years we just were responding to a demographic pressure to enroll kids in the university in any field, in any specialty. And obviously the cheapest seats are not necessarily the seats that are in the technical schools or professional schools that are needed
in the market,
in the market today. And I think another thing that we have, as Usama talked about the impediments and how SAGIA is working on them. Some of those impediments are not related to government agencies necessarily. Take for example, the difficulties of getting capital. It's true Saudi Arabia has billions of dollars windfall from oil, but it does not have the right channels to circulate to recycle that money to make it available to investors. There are two ways of doing it. One, through state funds, such as the Saudi Industrial Fund, or through commercial funds, commercial banks. The Saudi Industrial Fund, it has increased its capital, but it still has not increased. It has not been increased in the same amounts that are needed by these huge projects that have been announced. The billions of dollars or tens of billions of dollars worth of projects need equal increase in the capital of the Saudi Industrial Fund. The other channel, which is the private banks. Obviously, you cannot order banks to loan money, but you can help by improving the legal environment within which they work. The prime rate in Saudi Arabia is the prime interest is quite low. However, the actual rate that's given to new businesses is quite high. The requirements are quite high, quite restrictive. The collateral that are required, the collaterals that are required are quite high.
All of this need to be revisited and looked at and reviewed.
And I think there is no point well, there is a point in having these huge industrial funds because they sharpen, I think, the mind and they focus the thinking of officials. But parallel to that, you really have to work on improving the legal environment that controls the lending market, because capital is important. Absolutely. And Saudi Arabia has huge amounts of capital, but that doesn't have the right channels to move it into the right places.
Or the flexibility of the system that would there is flexibility in regards to lending money and
well, let's
funding.
not forget the IPOs. IPOs are a major source of income, or I'm sorry, of financing for projects, and we have gone through. We have sharpened our ability and this is done in many other countries too. I mean, the tools you mentioned, and then the IPOs. There are many different ways through which governments make funds available for investment projects. It'll be interesting also to hear the Australian experience as far as funding is concerned, because as you said, we need to readdress all of these things, and by learning from the experience of other countries.
Definitely.
And so it'll be interesting to hear from Mr. Edward what kind of experience Australians have.
Mr. Edward, can you share with us the Australian experience in regards to financing and funding investment projects?
In international funding, however, I am aware that our government has policies which encourages investment. The overseas investors are able to acquire licenses, assets. They are required to hire people locally. They're required to invest in infrastructure in the community, and obviously there is a profit sharing arrangement between the overseas investors and Australia at whatever level that might be, and I think that's always the difficult balance to achieve as to what that share of the profits will be in order to make it attractive to both parties.
Okay. Okay, we'll go for a short report, ladies and gentlemen, and then we'll come back to our discussion. So stay tuned.
The big opportunity existed in the brand new investment market is so promising, to the extent that we ask all young gentlemen to go in that field. The custodian of the two holy mosques made it easy by sponsoring a lot of projects. The industrial villages are examples to show how does the new wave affect the country's economy.
Would you introduce yourself, please?
My name is Saleh Nasser Al-Zayed. I'm a computer engineer in King Saud University now, studying now still.
Do you think of investing your money sometimes?
Well, if I had some money, I would invest it, of course. Personal businesses, if you want to make something like shops or something, you can invest in big companies, profitable companies. Many opportunities now in Saudi Arabia.
Do you think that there's enough opportunities, investing opportunities here in the Kingdom?
Well, not very much. It's not very secure. You can hear many news about somebody investing some money and then the company just vanishes or something like that. But now we're going a bit better in the future, because now we're in the World Center now. So we're going to be with the whole world now, new companies, Mobile and many other companies coming outside in Saudi Arabia now. So it's going to be better in the future, I think.
Do you think of investing your money sometimes?
Yes, and I am searching for investments.
Do you think that there's enough investments opportunities in the market, in the Saudi market?
Yes, but not a lot of people knowledge about it.
Do you think of investing your money sometime?
Yeah, after college, when that's the right time for me to actually invest and get into businesses of some sort. I'd be on my own, I have my own plans, I got some experience. That's when the right time for me to invest, yeah.
Do you think that there's enough investment opportunities here in the Saudi market?
Well, actually, yeah. Nowadays that the foreign investments are opening up, foreign banks, new branches, new work opportunities from outside coming in and installing themselves in, merging with the community. Yeah, there are a lot of opportunities, and nowadays it's just the beginning. After a while, it'll expand more and more. So here, compared to other Gulf countries, it would be the best opportunities.
Do you think of investing your money?
Yes, I think I will invest my money, but I think after college it will be the best time to invest my money here.
Do you think that there's enough investments opportunity here in the Saudi market?
Yes, I think, because there's now many companies here in Saudi Arabia.
Do you think of investing your money sometime?
If I had some extra money, yes, I would. I would invest it.
Do you think that there's enough investments opportunities here in the Saudi market?
Well, the Saudi market is really big, so I think there's a chance. There's a good chance of investing here in Saudi Arabia.
Do you think of investing your money sometime?
Actually, yes. There is a lot businessmen in Saudi Arabia. Yeah.
Well, actually, there's a lot of a big company. We can invest our money on it, so I think it's fine.
Do you think that there's enough investments opportunity here in the Saudi market?
Yes, because a lot of company here. Yeah.
Okay, if the bank give us liquidity for making a business or something, I think we can make it better, you know. That's it.
If you have an amount of money, would you invest it in real estate?
Yeah, I would.
Yes. Yeah.
No, not right now. Not right now.
Yeah, I would.
Yes, I do. Yes, I will.
I don't think so.
Of course.
And if you have an amount of money, would you invest it in stocks?
Also, but it have more danger for real estate.
No, I don't think so in stocks, no.
Yeah, I would.
Not really, not stocks. Stocks aren't guaranteed.
No, I don't think so.
Yes. Yeah.
Impossible. Right now, it's impossible, you know, because a lot of people slip down, you know, of this. No. Right now, no way.
As you can see, there's a lot of contradiction between people's ideas, but still we know that there's a lot of investments opportunities here in the kingdom. That was Hamad Al-Angari for Supply and Demand.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. That was an interesting report, actually. We've been talking about investment opportunities in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and many issues related to investment, how to attract investors, whether within the kingdom or outside foreign investment. The Saudi Investment Authority, SAGIA, introduced the 10 by 10 strategy. Could you shed some lights on that?
Sure, I will try, since I'm not part of SAGIA, but I will try and do that. To the best of my knowledge, the 10 by 10 is for Saudi Arabia to become the one among the 10 top investment attraction countries, the 10 hosting countries, the top 10 countries hosting or receiving investments by the year 2010. That's why I refer to it as 10 by 10. And I think this is a very ambitious program. I think it is doable. It is not easy, but I think it is doable that in 3 years we will be able to be among the top 10. And the numbers I have seen about the increased, as I said earlier, increased volume of investments coming to Saudi Arabia and increased ranking of Saudi Arabia among the Arab and world countries as far as receiving investment is going up. The numbers are very